Welcome back to We Still Like Each Other, the podcast. I'm Travis.
And I'm Stephanie.
And this is the podcast where we show that the honeymoon stage can last forever.
And ever and ever. And today is extra special because we have some guests.
Oh, I thought you were a little far from me on purpose.
Yeah, I know. I'm missing you, babe. So we have our guests are going to be right here if you're watching on YouTube. And I'm going to introduce Danyeli Rodriguez del Orbe. You know, my accent is kind of fading. She is a fellow Dominicana from the Bronx. So can I get a year? Thank you. So Danyeli, you're a poet, a writer, community organizer, right?
Yes.
All of those things. I've been following you for a while because I think we have some mutual friends. And I was like, oh, she's badass. She has very similar values to me in terms of Dominican culture, Black culture, Bronx pride, migrant pride. And, you know, I've just been fangirling over you for a couple of years. And then we have her partner, Nick, who's a very lucky man. All right. So, Nick, if you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, because I don't know you too much.
Okay, so hi, I'm Nick. I'm the man of the house. You know, the very lucky man of the house.
Okay.
Originally from Jamaica, moved to New York in 2015. All of that good stuff. But yeah, moved to Los Angeles last year for work. I work in healthcare. I work in healthcare compliance. So new to Los Angeles. We're still figuring out and learning the city. But yeah. I'm Nick.
Well, thank you for joining us. We really, really, really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure joining y'all.
And
all right, so
we were saying earlier, shout out to Nick because it's the first, I guess, public engagement that we did together.
Shout out to y'all for bringing us out.
Yes, well, we're excited. We're happy to pop your cherry, and that's it. And this is obviously a relationship podcast. I definitely invited Danyeli because she was talking on her stories about a topic I've been wanting to talk about, which revolves around therapy and codependency, which we'll get to later. However, I was like, wait, I definitely want Nick to come to. It could be like our version of like ghetto couples therapy. And we could talk about some fun stuff. So I'm going to start with just a couple icebreaker questions, okay?
Okay.
So the first one I want to know is, who tells the best version of how you both met?
I would say that I do.
I do.
No, for sure.
No, I do.
Right, go ahead.
I feel like I have more gusto telling stories.
Okay.
It just says that I lie.
100%. I feel like I'm the more animated one. So when I'm telling the story, I'll add the little razzle dazzle. So the folks are entertained, but I also walk the line of the truth. Danyeli 100% embellishes our original story.
I'm a storyteller. You gotta add a little, a little spice to
All right. So are we going to flip a coin? Who's going to tell us the quick version of how y'all met?
I guess you can go. I'll fill in the blanks.
Okay.
I mean, how we met, I guess, goes way back. Yeah. That's not how we started, I guess.
Yeah,
so
we knew each
other from before. So we met in 2016. I was going back to my college. I had graduated in 2015. I was going back to my alma mater because I was taking LSAT courses at the school. Gotcha. But at my alma mater, my mentee was still going to school. And my mentee is Nicholas' best friend from Jamaica. And Nicholas had just migrated as a student, as an international student, I guess, at the time. So he had been here like 1 month. So I went over to see my mentee, and I was introduced to Nick.
Love at first sight.
Yes.
And, he saw all this fine, and he said, that's gonna be mine. Yep. No, and I when I saw Nick, I'm like, aw.
Or were you like, let me get him now before New York messes him up?
Not even, I was just like, no. Because I felt it. You usually feel when guys like you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no. Like, you are a kid. Like, you have, because he was a freshman in college, and you had taken a gap year, or I guess you had taken like a year off in Jamaica, and I had graduated 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're like 1 year apart, but
How old are you? How old are you two?
In age.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in experience.
Yeah, I feel like there was definitely a developmental gap, based on like we're at a stage in our life.
So he was
Gotcha.
a freshman in college, and I had been 1 year out of college by then.
Gotcha.
How old are you both now?
Oh, so I'm 25 and Danyeli's 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cougar. No, I'm kidding.
So that's how we met. And then I didn't see Nick. I would see Nick here and there, like when I would go back, and we would run into each other through my mentee. And then fast forward.
Yeah, but I feel like it started as jokes, but we always had this flirtatious like interaction from the jump.
Gotcha.
Like, like, hi, wifey, I see you visiting today. Like that kind of like back and forth banter. But yeah, like she definitely saw me as like, little Nicholas from Jamaica, my mentee's best friend.
Yeah. I saw them as babies. Like, I'm like, no. I'm here to teach.
But when I feel like she finally saw me, so Danyeli then moved to
Here we go.
So this is where the story gets interesting. So Danyeli moved to Los Angeles back in 2018. I was doing an internship in Thousand Oaks, California, like 30 minutes outside of Los Angeles. But I was on my gym shit that summer, and your boy was looking fine. So somehow we reconnected via text, and she was like, "Oh wow, I'm out here. Let's meet up for brunch."
Yeah, I had been in LA for like a week by then, and I think I saw it on the gram that you were also in LA, and I'm like, "Oh my God, Nick! Like, hi! Like, you're in LA.
Baby
Like,
Nick.
let's meet up." Yeah. Because I didn't have anybody here. I had moved here by myself, no friends, no family. So
Danyeli was like, "Hey, big head, you want to have
you
brunch?"
said no. You see, he says I lie. He says I lie. I said, "Hey, Nick, we'd love to see you. Like, we haven't seen each other in so long, like, let's hang out." And by then we hadn't seen each other in like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, we still had each other on Instagram, but we hadn't like hung out. And we also never hung out outside of like hang out with my mentee. So this was like the first time that we were gonna like see each other. Like, one-on-one.
So I feel like time definitely passed quickly between when I saw her in New York and then 2018. I feel like it definitely was over a year since the last time we interacted. So she said brunch. I said, "Oh, cool. Would be great to meet up." So I grabbed my Uber or whatever. Pull up to the brunch spot. So your boy stepped out the Uber looking fine, and I mean.
I don't doubt it.
He was late. Let's talk about that. Caribbean man. He was late.
She hates tardiness. When you're meeting up. Yeah. So I pulled up late, LA traffic or whatever.
And I'm like, texting, like, where are you? I'm looking around, and he like, it's like right here, and I can't see because I'm expecting the boy that I met. The boy that I met a few years earlier.
Oh, okay.
Nick definitely like grew. Like, he like grew a few inches. I was really shocked. I was like, wow, like late bloomer.
So this is her reaction when I stepped out the Uber. It didn't even connect initially. Like, I saw her looking around me, like looking to see me, and then she was like, "Nicola."
It wasn't even like,
yo. I swear to you, that was her reaction.
It wasn't like that. I was just like happy to see. I was like, wow, like it wasn't even like I liked him. It was like, oh, like good for you. Like, look at you.
But also, you look good.
You look good, like good.
Yeah.
But like, we still didn't connect romantically that time. But I think it was the first time she finally saw me as like, yo, man. You know what I mean?
Like,
not a little boy anymore.
This sounds so bad. This would sound so bad if I was older than you. Like, actually older than you.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think when we finally connected romantically was the following year. I was visiting LA, and we met up with some friends for a kickback.
Oh God, she's scared.
This was supposed to be a fling, a little something. Sent him right back to New York,
Let's just say, your boy did this thing and she fell in love. And here we are today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
congratulations.
I moved in with my one night stand, and here we are.
Yeah.
Hello.
So they do work out, the one night stands.
I'm always thinking, how are we gonna tell our kids our story? Like, how are we gonna
Keep it
what's
real.
we're gonna tell them when they're young versus like when they're like
when they get a little older. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, that's awesome. We actually spoke about like earlier episodes about one night stands that turned into more. So you are a manifestation of that as well.
Yeah,
well, congratulations. My next question is, who is more competitive?
Danyeli is insane. She's a psychopath. It would be like simple things like playing like Uno. I remember because like I don't play like a lot of those card games, so a lot of times she'll have to teach me. I remember one night I looked out the first time we were playing and won, and she was like, "Okay." The next round, like the entire game, and is it okay to cuss on here?
Yeah, of course.
She was fucking with me the entire game. Like her aim was no longer to win; it was just like fuck with me. I got you. Reverse, like murdering me in this game. Like,
but I wouldn't let him lose. I wouldn't let him lose. I would just keep going, just to I'll make him think that he was about to win, and then I'll I'm really bad.
You were extending the torture.
Oh my god!
This one, Travis, is super competitive, even when it has nothing to do with him.
Really?
Yesterday, my son has like a bop it game. You know that game that's like bop it, pull it, twist it, and it has like it'll record the highest score. So I beat the highest score. I got 49, mind you. Me and Eli having quality time. Travis is in the kitchen. He heard that I got the high score. He came out. 10 minutes later, he's like, I got 69. I'm like, what? This had nothing to do with you. He was sweating.
And I failed. And what's funny is I failed like 10 times. And then I'm determined. I'm going to get this. And then I just pass it back to them like, good luck.
100%. Especially if she isn't good at it initially, she'll fixate on it until it happened with like Sudoku. And it's like, not everybody likes Sudoku because some people are really boring. Danyeli I think we went through like a couple weeks or like a few months in quarantine where every night she's just there on Sudoku until she got so good that the most advanced level was like
I was beating like national scores and stuff. It was really bad.
Oh my gosh.
I become fixated on one thing and then I get bored. When I get good, I'm like, this is no longer fun. Like
next challenge, right?
Yeah.
All right. I have another question, but earlier today, one of our listeners actually submitted like a question for advice. And I was like, you know what? Let me pose it in tonight's episode as well. So her question was, do you ever feel it's okay to tell a friend that they should leave their partner? Or do you mind your business?
That they should leave their partner?
Leave them.
Yeah, I feel like Danyeli has pretty good advice on that. Yeah.
It depends. It depends on what. It depends if the friend is asking. And I think that's the key component. If a friend comes to you and they're venting about their partner, what I've learned is that I have to ask. So what do you want? Do you want advice or do you want to know what I think? And those are two different things because what I think does not necessarily mean that it's the advice you want to work on the relationship. And I've learned that from like failing over and over again when my friends were in toxic relationships and becoming very adamant about, you need to leave him. You need to leave him. You need to leave him. And through time, what I realized was that my friends stopped telling me when they were hurt, when they were hurting, when they were having issues, when they were stressed out because they were afraid or they were hesitant that I would tell them to leave when they were not ready to leave. So with time, what I learned was that when a friend is having issues with their partner and they want to work it out, as a friend, you have to show up for what the want is. So it depends, if you're, let's say your homegirl's fed up and she comes to you and she's like, I don't know what to do. I want to work it out with him. What should I do? Then that's when I'm like, okay, communicate, maybe approach him in this way, or if you ask me, what do you think is best for me? I might tell you, sis, it's time to go.
You left the door open. Now I'm going to be honest with you.
What doesn't work is a friend coming to you about their man or about their partner, and you telling them what you would do without them asking you, because you're two different people. You have to place yourself in your friend's shoes.
So do you think it's okay to just have a friend who wants to vent to you? Like not necessarily just who wants advice, but just needs someone to lend them an ear?
I think it depends on by then, I think it depends on your boundaries, because I've definitely told friends like, girl, I love you, but I'm tired. And the way that I word it is, I'm very direct. I say, I'm going to say this just once. And and I'm saying it now. After this, I'm no longer able to hold this anymore. And for example, I had a friend who was in a very abusive relationship, and she went back to her partner. She was in that cycle of abuse. So what I said is, I'm going to say this once. That person does not deserve you. You should leave that person. That person is abusing you. After this, it's either you come to me when you're ready for solutions, or I can no longer hold it as much as I've been holding it. I can't hear about it every single day. It hurts me to see you hurt. I think that's me. But Nick is less harsh than me, I think, when it comes to advice.
Yeah,
less harsh, but I feel like I've definitely in the past had to set a similar boundary. So I have mainly female friends, so there's the added gender piece where it's so hard for me to see my female friends being hurt. Like there's just something that hits different about that. And I love being an individual who like offers that emotional support for, my loved ones. But at a certain point, if I care about you enough, it becomes too emotionally taxing for me to always hold that. So I'll allow you space to vent, but at a certain point, I have to set that boundary of, hey, I've given you, advice. Like if you've asked for advice, I've given you advice how I feel about this situation, what I think are your possible options for solving it or getting out of the situation. But I can no longer hold this with you and hold space in venting with you. And I usually try to, suggest to them to speak professionally with somebody, because it can be a lot depending on the severity of the situation. But in general, yes, I do think I'm a little less harsher than Danyeli. I'll set the boundary, but the way I do it might be like maybe nicely worded.
Yeah, I'm a little like, okay, so now we're talking about boundaries, and in giving my advice to this listener, I mentioned how I personally have distanced myself from a friend because I disagree with her relationship. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I was setting a boundary, like I don't want you to be in this situation. But what she did was like what you said about your friends just not telling you anymore. So she just wouldn't. But then that wasn't okay with me either. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not about setting a boundary. It's about, I want better for you. And I don't know am I overstepping? Like, because my friend was like, but it has nothing to do with you. And she just wouldn't say anything. But I couldn't just like meet up for brunch, meet up for drinks, meet up, knowing everything that's going on in the background. It still weighed on me, even though she wasn't sharing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a layered issue, because I realized very early that it wasn't as simple as just telling somebody, hey, leave him or leave your partner. And they just, oh, okay, I guess I'll leave. There's so many things that you might not even be able to understand. It could be their trauma, shit that they need to work out in therapy. It could be it could be so many issues that I make space for, to say, hey, I might not entirely understand what is stopping you from making what I think is the obvious choice and leave this situation.
Yeah.
But know that I will be here for you, for whatever your needs are. But if it gets to a point where it begins to negatively affect me because of how much I care about you, that's when I have to draw the line. However, with the understanding that, hey, I love you, I care for you, and it's because I care for you why I cannot,
Gotcha.
But I don't think that I've ever actively distanced myself from a friend in that situation.
Yeah.
I think part of it is what I guess I feel like I don't like that I was using the word harsh earlier. I think I'm more direct. I'm less likely to sugarcoat things. I don't think I'm mean or abrupt in what I say. What I have learned is that you follow a boundary first by an affirmation. So, hey, girl, it's not that I'm distancing myself from you because, I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's that I love you and it hurts me to see you hurting. The other part is what I've realized by like being in abusive relationships and depending a lot on my friends and then having to be the support for my friends and sometimes failing at it is that sometimes people just want to be heard because many times you're not being heard in their relationship. So as a friend, many times what you're there for is just to be an ear and not project your frustrations, your opinions, your expectations of what your friends should do. Sometimes it's like, damn girl, that's tough. In what ways can we get brunch and can we distract you from this for a few hours? Hey, let's set a rule where we meet up and we don't talk about this because I want you to have joy outside of this. So there are ways that you can do it where you're like not talking about like their partner all the time, but at the same time you're like holding space for your friend,
And but understanding that your friend's needs could change too.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I've had a friend who held everything back because I'm like you in the sense that I'm very direct. And some people call it tough love, or they'll see Travis and I's relationship. So then they're afraid. They think we're perfect. So they don't want to tell us anything.
Yeah.
But then they had a breakdown. It was like, I'm at a point where I want you to know everything so you could hold me accountable. But then change their mind a couple of weeks later. And it's like, what do I do? But like you said, I realized that it was just a boundary I needed to create until she's fully ready to be like, okay, we can talk, you can listen or not. But that gray area, it was just weighing on me too much.
Yeah. And it's tough. I think also the part of it that we don't talk about is that sometimes, let's say when the distance does happen, sometimes it's about welcoming your friend back when they're ready as well.
Yeah.
Like, let's say they gone through it. They never told you anything because they were afraid or they were embarrassed. And then finally they ended their relationship. It's okay for you to accept your friend back and now
absolutely,
and be like, I'm here for you in this part of your healing. So,
Absolutely. I 100% agree. So thank you very much. That was our icebreaker. It was kind of long, but the conversation was good.
Are you guys comfortable? You ready?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. The icebreaker definitely broke the ice.
All right, good. So the first topic that I want to talk about is kind of I'm Dominican, a Black Dominican woman. Danyeli, do you identify as the same?
Yes.
Yes. And we're both dating Jamaican men.
Jamaican?
Yo, you're Jamaican?
Yeah.
Wait, where you think the gunshot came from?
He wasn't
just
being...
being an annoying American.
In my head, Travis has been Dominican this whole time.
So my mother is born in Jamaica. She's from Harborview, Kingston. And then my father, his family's from Grenada.
Oh, okay. Island boy, all the way through.
Through and through.
And now I live in the Bronx where everyone thinks I speak Spanish. So
yeah, literally everyone.
I thought so too.
Everyone talks to him in Spanish and ignores me. And then he's looking at me like, wait, what? What they said?
I can 100% see that. Yeah.
That happens to us everywhere. Even like on vacation, like Costa Rica, everybody was talking to you in Spanish.
Yeah.
And then my black ass come like, ¿Cómo fue?
Wow. Okay. That not me also being part of the problem. I'm all Travis Dominican.
Right? He looks like your brother.
Yes. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, now good to know, man. Yo, fellow yardie, you know?
Yeah. You don't know.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I remember when I was first introduced to you, Danyeli, I admired your openness and bluntness and a lot of the things that I saw myself in, but I wasn't so vocal about. And then I realized we're like 5 years apart in age. And I feel like that's that Gen Z, millennial like gap where a lot of the things you are so passionate about, I didn't even hear of until I went to college. But now it's trickling down and the high schoolers are becoming more quote unquote, for lack of a better word, woke and like in their identity. So how do you two deal with those issues of like identifying as a Black Dominican woman or as Nick being a Black man dating a Latina and, you know, why aren't you with a Black woman? Do you have those conversations?
I mean, I had a similar experience to yours because I skipped 2 grades. I grew up with like 93 generation.
Gotcha.
That was like in 2nd grade. I skipped really early on. So I didn't hear about any of these issues in high school. I think I took one class in my senior year, my last semester, that like was called Global Impact or Human Impact, something like that. Okay. And then like it was like a very sociology focused class, and this was in high school. I went to a fashion high school, so I was not worried about the world. I was trying to get rich. And it wasn't until I went to college. I went to John Jay College, and if you know John Jay, it's so social justice driven. You either leave John Jay an activist or a cop. There's no middle ground. There's no middle ground, you know.
Okay.
So I unlearned everything and relearned everything in college. Okay. And I feel like because Nick also went to John Jay, that's when we kind of were able to meet midway.
Gotcha.
I guess in our identities, but we've had those conversations before where because I learned all of the dynamics of, you know, Blackness and identity in college. And also in college was when I started dating outside of like Dominicans. That's when I started being more mindful of being fetishized, being light-skinned, being like, I was mind blown by how quote unquote ugly I felt growing up because I was the Black one in my family or one of the Black ones in my family, apart from like me and my cousin. My mom is like white and my grandma's white, and I grew up on my mom's side of the family. Versus when I went to college and all of a sudden I was in these like non-Dominican Black spaces and I was deemed as beautiful. And I'm going to be honest, Nick and I have spoken about this. I leaned into that. It was very affirming and very like, it really stroked my ego to be seen as a pretty girl. And it wasn't until I developed a bigger understanding of like colorism that I realized, oh, so this is what's going on here. And then I felt completely disgusted. And then I became extremely more mindful about dating like non-Black Dominican men. I mean, non-Dominican Black men, and how they saw me. So I went to Nick once and I was like, I needed to see all of them before me. I was like,
yeah, where's the whole facts?
Like, I'm not about to bring
this. Make sure I don't have a type.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not about to bring this to my kids. Like, I want a man in my home, you know, especially if it's like a darker skinned Black man that like is not going to be projecting all of that onto my kids. That's all I kept thinking about, especially because I grew up with a dad who like mejorar la raza, like bettering the race is like his goal in life. And that's why all his baby mamas, all 7 of them, are white women, you know?
Yeah.
So I was very adamant about that. I don't know if you want to talk about like coming from Jamaica and.
Yeah, for sure. We have had those conversations. It was very like almost shocking to me when Danyeli like disclosed that she didn't feel beautiful like growing up in her community, because I will say, and you know, Travis might know a bit about this, like in Jamaica, colorism plays a huge role in what is deemed as attractive. You know, the lighter you are, the further your hair is from 4C, you know, really plays a role in what is viewed as conventionally attractive. But I don't know. I will say that did play a role. In like, of course, I lived in Jamaica. I grew up in the society. That's how I was socialized.
Yeah.
So I think when I moved to New York, seeing so many non-Black women, I do remember spending like my first semester like being wowed by like being surrounded by so much of it. And then when I met Danyeli, I feel like that was the first thing that hit me, the wow, oh my God, look at this browning. You know what I mean? With look at her hair and all of that. But I think for me, I was happy that I went to a school like John Jay, you know, being in that social justice centric space where I learned a lot more about these issues, you know, and the people who I interacted with were people who like to talk about Blackness, like to talk about how Blackness influences what you find attractive, your preferences. But when we spoke, I told her that, and it's interesting what happened with Danyeli is that beyond that initial like, wow, you're a beautiful woman, when I really found Danyeli attractive was when I heard her speak. So we were on campus and a bunch of our friends would get together in like the student council office and they'd talk about all, you know, the issues going on in the world. You know, it would be like woke central, like everybody caring about the world and points are being made, you know. And I just when Danyeli spoke, just like the command that she had in the room, just how salient her points were, I was like, wow, I was odd, you know. And I feel like that was where the main source of my attraction for Danyeli like came initially. And as we told you earlier, we didn't really connect then. And most of the women I dated in the US were Black, darker skinned women. So I did.
Has your family or your friends like make comments about Danyeli hair or complexion or the fact that she's Dominican?
My grandma. So it's interesting how race is perceived in Jamaica. My grandma perceived Danyeli as a white woman, like point blank. Period. She doesn't see her as anything else.
So tell them the story when I first met her.
We went to Jamaica 2019 for the first time. I brought her over to my family's house, my grandma's house. So I get out of the car. I'm walking towards my grandma first. Danyeli comes out of the car afterwards. So I'm in earshot of my grandma, and she's like, "Are you a whitey that?" Like essentially saying, like, "Is that your white woman?"
Yeah.
You know? Because like Danyeli wouldn't. I don't know. We don't really perceive her as like Black in Jamaica, which is super interesting. My friends. Not really, you know. They don't like comment specifically on her race and her light skin. They'll just simply say, "Oh, she's beautiful." The part that's a little bit problematic, everybody goes to the, "Oh, you guys are gonna have beautiful children." The part that's like,
do you think that especially in Jamaica, people see her as a status symbol, like you made it type thing?
100%.
Like you went to America and you did good.
It's something that I personally don't care about, especially in my own journey with unlearning. You know, a lot of like those toxic traits I came from Jamaica with. But I remember, I think it was around 2019 or 2020. Yeah, it would have been when we went to Vegas, 2020. I posted a photo of Danyeli and I from Vegas on my Facebook. And like most people in our age group don't really use Facebook like that anymore. So it would be all the uncles and the aunties and like my church family from Jamaica. And I posted the photo. And people were in the comments saying, "Wow, congrats, Nick." So literally. So it wasn't just "Oh, so nice to see you growing up and looking good." Couple. It like went to, "Congrats, you did good." You know?
It's like you graduated college or something like.
100%.
Danyeli,
do you have the opposite of that? Of like,
girl,
va a dañar la raza?
I have the absolute opposite of that. I mean, my family it's so complicated because I dated like the first person that I dated who was non Dominican black man was also like darker skin and happened in college, and it made family news. Like when I told my mom that I was dating this like darker skinned man, like it spread throughout the family to the point that like I'll go to the family holidays, the family holidays like Christmas Eve and Thanksgiving, and it was like Danyeli the one dating black dudes. Like the black sheep of the family. My cousin once made like a very disgusting comment about like, oh, so you like sucking black. Listen,
yeah,
it was a lot, right? So, I think because I did the work back then, of like educating them, of like shutting them out on the spot, cursing everybody out if need be.
Yeah.
By the time that like Nick came around, it was like, okay. And also I feel like my family has grown a lot, mostly from the labor I've done over the past like decade. But my family has grown a lot, to the point that like now maybe it's because they expect it, or now because they understand it's not a big deal. Like y'all gonna be okay. But my relationship with my dad in particular, like I don't have a relationship with my dad. And it was because I started dating darker men. Because in his head, I did all this stuff for you. Like the last conversation we had about race, where it was like a really big and last fallout, he said something along the lines of, I did what I was supposed to do in having you, in conceiving you with your mom. I made sure that you were pretty. And now here you go, taking away all the things that I have accomplished. And what he meant was that I was going to have darker skin grandchildren.
Yeah, a big old disappointment.
Nick,
big old disappointment.
So, hearing that, I'm sure you've dealt with it a long time ago, but has it ever crossed your mind, like, all right, maybe I should just let you free so you don't have to deal with that type of turmoil in your family?
So I feel like before she answers, I remember us having that conversation. Before I met her family, it was a huge fear of mine about how I would be received. Because she would tell me some of the things that like they'd say, some of the comments, and like it would kind of hit me hard, like wow. I think especially as it regards having children, and like, oh, then I'd hear comments like, I hope you have all boys because at least they can cut their hair, like things like that. But it's very interesting though, and I've after meeting them and interacting with them, I've actually only had positive experiences with her family, and it's allowed me to have a lot of grace for their ability to learn and evolve and have grace for how they were socialized, because I understand the part of them that meets me, sees that I'm a great guy, that I treat her well, and appreciating that, but also being socialized to view me in a certain way, so I do have grace for that. And Danyeli has like shared with me how they've also been able to grow over the years, so I think I do appreciate that.
And we have to acknowledge the privilege that we all have to have been able to go to college and learn and read and have these things that our parents and their parents never had. So
I was very aware in bringing Nick to my family that like I wasn't going to bring him anywhere that I felt he wasn't going to be safe.
Gotcha.
And I had to cut, for example, I cut all communication with my dad. I realized that he was never going to change and that he was never going to allow me the space to be me. And obviously there's also other childhood stuff and parent-child relationship that come into play. But a big thing that I said that took it took a few years out of me is you will not be around my future family if this is what you're going to teach them. So either you fix yourself now or you just won't be around me. You won't get to experience me. And for someone to hear that, especially a Dominican man, especially a father, especially a parent, is very hard. For them, it's like, excuse me, but it's something that needed to be done. So I was very aware of like bringing Nick to a space where he was gonna feel safe, and he was going to feel appreciated. And had my family not been there by then, I wouldn't have. I think I would have
protected him.
That, you know, protected him, held that boundary between them and him. But I have to give them credit. They've done a lot of work. They've learned a lot of it from having conversations with me. Obviously, they're not perfect. It comes here and there in the thing that they don't think is racist or they don't think is inappropriate, but it's not. They understand now that there are certain things that are not okay. And them saying the way that Nick treats me, it's like now it's just, now they're just worried about Nick. Now they're like, why are you not, you know, looking out after Nick? Why don't you cook for Nick? You know, Nick deserves better. You know, now we've entered misogyny.
We're going through the layers.
Like the layers of being a woman, and we, you know, Nick, we try to teach her how to cook, and now you have to do with it. We're sorry.
Oh, they apologize to me personally, like for who that jelly is. Nick, we tried with her. We're so sorry that she.
we're sorry that she's not. You know.
We're sorry that she's so stubborn. Like they get the whole list of apologies on her behalf. Yeah.
Now they're over there, you know, making excuses for me being opinionated and loud, and you know.
Yeah.
How long have you two been official?
2 years, almost 3 years. No,
almost 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, good. I just thought about, I want your family to apologize for me since you don't know how to cook. Because what the hell?
Oh,
no, for real.
Like, why we don't get the apology when the man can't cook? What the hell?
Well, we're gonna see them tomorrow, so
no, they probably think I'm too opinionated too. I need to shut up a little bit. Yeah. All right, so the last topic that I wanted to talk about, which is what drew me to be like, we got to talk about this. We kind of need help in this area. Codependency. So yeah. So Danyeli, you mentioned how you grew up as the only child, right? So you were comfortable being on your own and enjoying your own company. And I was like, well, then maybe that's my problem, because I'm the eldest of 5 and I was like their second mom. I was so codependent with people that I would like beg my sister to sit on the toilet while I showered. Like, that's how bad it was. I didn't want to be alone. So we're very attached to each other. So do you have any advice for that? Like, maybe when you do feel like you're becoming a little too codependent and now in this new relationship, what do you do to like check yourself?
I will give Nick credit. I feel like the codependency is mostly me.
Okay.
And I think even though I grew up an only child, it's weird. It's a weird thing that I'm like learning and navigating with myself. Mm-hmm. When I'm alone, when I'm single, when I'm here dating, I'm a very independent person. Like, yeah, I have traveled by myself without friends. I you know, living in New York, I would go and have picnic dates with myself and just go with my little backpack, a blanket, and just read the whole day, journal, play music, enjoy my company. And I was very used to that. I would find different spots in New York that I like, you know, sunsets and very romantic spots for myself. I wine and dine myself. It's all about me when I'm single. But I think when I'm in a relationship, there's a shift that happens that I'm still trying to understand. And I think a lot of it has to do with being surrounded by like matriarchs, like my mom, I grew up, I was raised by single women. And although those single women had single parents, I guess, but even though they had their partners, they were always outside of the home. And they were very adamant about raising girls in a safe place, especially like me and my cousins, raising them in a place where there could be no chance of like men harming us. So I didn't have men around growing up. I didn't see healthy relationships. And as I got older, and I saw my mom enter like a relationship with my stepdad, and he actually moved in, and my aunt get married, and all these things. There still weren't relationships that were healthy. The communication is off, and I knew that those were not the kind of relationships that I wanted to have. But I was raised by very independent women, so in a way, Nick and I are not like, we're not so codependent that we're like, oh, don't go there without me, or, you know, I don't want you to go out with your friends. I don't know how to, it's more, well, actually, I feel like we're not codependent. At least I'm not codependent when it comes to like Nick going out with his friends. But there's a shift that happens that after a while, I started forgetting how to spend time with myself. And I started forgetting how to take myself on a date because I always wanted Nick to come along. And if Nick wasn't up to it, then I wasn't going. And if Nick didn't want to come, or Nick wanted to stay home and watch TV, I'll be pissed. I'm like, why are we staying home and watching TV? And he's like, you can go. Like, go. Like, I want to get out of the house today. Why are we home? Danyeli, I want to stay home. The car is right there. You're more than welcome to. But I don't want to go anywhere because what am I going to do by myself? And it was like in therapy that I realized that I lost somewhere along the way the ability to do things on my own. Because I was raised as an only child, because I was always so independent. I never had to learn how to like have someone next to me and be able to establish boundaries, because I didn't need to. It was just me. So entering a relationship with Nick, I think, and becoming codependent, especially through quarantine, I think that did not do me well. It's been a lot of relearning who I can be with Nick. I also never had healthy relationships or romantic relationships. So I had to learn how to be loved and give love, and at the same time make space for me to love myself, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
All right, so I have a question.
Okay.
Do you think codependent has to be this negative thing? Because, you know, I think, especially if you're putting your trust into someone who deserves it and is worthy of it, why can't you be codependent with Nick and it be okay? Why does it have to be unhealthy?
It depends. Like, for example, she's like, you know, I don't mind if he goes out with his friends. I feel like we don't have that issue. Like, none of us are like, don't go out with your friends. What I could say is I'm more likely to have plans with friends. I've gone on a couple of vacations with friends since we've been together. I went to the Dominican Republic by myself while we were together. Travis has no desire to do any of that.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't want him to, or like, because it's just not who he is. Like, he doesn't care for those things. But then it worries me, like, do you want to have other friends? Do you want to go places?
I feel like I'm very chill. Like, it doesn't take much to satisfy me. And I'm not overthinking like she does a lot. I don't know. I'm just like, that word being viewed as negative, it kind of rubs me the wrong way, because I feel like, why can't you pour everything you have into Nick and not
labeled as codependent?
Exactly.
Man, I just feel like for me, codependency, it just has a negative connotation because of how I interpret it, right? I don't think that Danyeli should be pouring everything into me, because if she does that, what does she have left for herself? You know?
Gotcha.
I had to really set some boundaries with her when we just moved in, particularly in a pandemic where at some point we were spending every second of every waking day in the same space, even if we weren't like doing the same things together.
Yeah.
I felt that way because we're in the same space 24/7. And I had to set a boundary because in dating Danyeli, and being the one who moved to Los Angeles to see her in different spaces, transitioning from just the talking stage to dating, then to being in a relationship, I kind of saw the switch when she stopped doing the things that she enjoyed, because she wanted to do everything with me. When she lived by herself or with roommates in LA, I would visit her, and that Danyeli, you know, always reading her favorite books, going out to spend time by the beach, like just various things that she enjoyed. When we moved in together, it just became this expectation that whatever I want to do, you're going to do it with me. If you're not going to do it with me, I'm not going to do it. So for me, that to me is what I consider like codependency, like the inability to be apart, to do anything if you're not doing it together, you know? And that's where to me
Definitely.
the negative connotation comes from.
I think
yeah, go ahead.
what I've learned, and to answer Travis' question, saying what I've learned from the work codependency in therapy is that you lose the individual, to the point that you can't see yourself outside of your partner. You become the relationship, and that's dangerous because when babies come around, right? You need to be able to show them who an individual can be in a relationship. And also in the relationship, let's say we're not to work, that's how you lose yourself. That's how you end up like depressed and like unable to function because you know, you've ended the relationship. So, so that's what I've learned in therapy. And I think it was very hard for me to come to terms with that. And it's also very scary to want to be on your own but I love you. Like, I want to do things with you, you know, but I want you to share this stuff with me, you know, and sometimes you have to like force yourself to be uncomfortable on your own for you to be like, this is actually good for me. Like, I actually feel happy when I'm alone, you know?
Sometimes I'll randomly have a day for me that's unplanned, but I have a little bit of guilt. Like, I had a doctor's appointment, and then I saw this really nice nail place. I was like, I'm stopping here. I got the spa pedicure with the massage. And then I saw like this little place that sells crepes. I had lunch by myself. But then I was feeling guilty because Travis was working from home. So I was like, should I been home since he's there? And then it's like that.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
I know.
I'm happier when you're happy. Like, I can instantly tell when something's off with her. So if she comes in here in a good mood, that only is going to make my life better.
True.
So
Yeah.
And I think that was also, tough for Nick because in me losing my individuality, that's when the issue started with myself, right? That's when I felt down. That's when I was just like, felt depressed. I felt like I had no purpose. I felt like, you know, why am I even writing? Like, what's the point of all this? And Nick had to sit me down one day and be like, what are you going to do? Like, for yourself? Like, what's the plan? And what are the things that you're going to do for you outside of me? And it was very hard to hear that from your partner because it's like, it puts you on the spot.
I think the biggest motivation for that conversation came from her vocalizing all the things that she wants to do, you know, for herself, for her life, for her art, and seeing her not go for it. Like, I met Danyeli as a go-getter. Like, whatever she wants to do, she's going to do it. If you want to come with me, great. But I'm going to do this for me. Like, that's the Danyeli I met. And to see her evolve, you know, in the relationship, to a person who hesitates. I don't know Danyeli as someone who hesitates about action when she wants something. So like we really had to talk about it, and it's an ongoing conversation about encouraging her to do things for herself.
I feel like we had the opposite of that. I feel like Travis is so content.
Yeah.
That I'm scared that one day he's gonna wake up and feel like he wasted his life and did nothing. So I feel like I'm more so like, do you have a plan? What do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, what's next? And he's just like so comfortable and fine. And then sometimes I think he's upset, but that's just his face.
I just feel like, you know, you can get caught up in living for that next moment that you forget to enjoy where you're at right now. And I'm like, it's everything that's around me is an accomplishment. Where we live, where I work, our family, our baby on the way, that's an accomplishment. So I'm just taking that in. I'm not thinking about, all right, well, we're going to have the next baby and then we have to buy the house. And no, let's enjoy this. You know, it feels good. I like it here. So it's not to say that I want to be here forever.
But then it's like, I'm afraid of like being stuck if we don't plan. Yeah. So I struggle because I think too far ahead. And I overplan things, and then he kind of brings me back to earth. So we kind of pull each other in. But I don't know. Then sometimes I think I'm pushing you too much. See, this is therapy. I tell you.
We'll send you the bill.
Interesting, because I feel like we have a similar dynamic. Danyeli gets restless, especially if she falls into the same routine of doing things.
What's next?
She's like, yeah, what's next? What's next? I feel like I'm a little bit more like you, Travis, where, I view everything and every stage of my life as an accomplishment, a reason to be grateful, especially being able to look back at a time when it wasn't like this, so, but I also think that we strike a good balance between trying to be present, like, hey, we actually have it good, we're doing well, but at the same time, we know we want more for our lives. So I think it's the ability to see it both ways. And I think we do a good job at that.
Yeah,
definitely. Well,
I don't have an answer for that. I feel like I'm still trying to also figure it out. Like, how do we, maybe that's the key, that like we're different people and it works because of that.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm still figuring it out too.
I just had a realization that I need to be myself when it comes to dinner, because I feel like I'm a big foodie and like I find true joy and passion in eating. And Travis is a picky eater.
I'm not picky.
He's gotten better over the years. But I feel like when I'm grocery shopping, when I'm planning dinner, when I'm planning this, it's always like, but will Travis eat this? But we'll try. And especially because he can't cook for himself. Oh my God. So maybe I need to just eat what I want and then let him figure it out for himself.
So for me, it hits, that really hits home because, being Jamaican.
Travis and I are being called out right now. We're all.
No, being Jamaican, like living in the US, I didn't really start cooking until like college, when I had to eat. So and if I'm going to eat, might as well cook, and it might as well ensure I enjoy it. So like I learned to cook well, but since moving in with Danyeli, there's a lot of Jamaican dishes that she doesn't really like. She doesn't do seafood at all. Shrimp here and there, like she does not eat.
It smells fishy.
She does not do seafood. Curries she doesn't do. A lot of stews.
It's too
she
strong.
doesn't do.
Oh my God.
No, so for me, like those are the things that I grew up on, the added piece that those are the things that remind me of home. And when I'm missing home, those are the experiences and the meals I want to have. But I can't make those because I know, okay, Danyeli's not going to eat this. And I don't want to do the double work of cooking multiple like pots of food. Because we don't want, so it is very tough to navigate. But I think I've been having that same conversation with myself, and she's been encouraging me too. Like, Nick, you should cook what you enjoy, and we'll figure it out. Yeah.
I sometimes when I'm like, I don't know what you're going to eat, figure it out. Or I'll make what I like and I'm like, eat it or not. But it's more so at a place of frustration versus like, I'm doing this for me and you're a grown man, you'll be okay. Like I need to shift my thinking.
Like I survived for 20 something years without her.
That's what I say.
But then it's also when I leave it up to him, it's McDonald's, it's Popeyes, it's junk. And I'm like,
for her.
I'm like, I want you to be healthy at the end of the day. We're going to be together forever. I don't want you to be 60 years old and like have a failing heart. So then I have that like trying to take care of him. But I need to stop. You need to figure it out.
Going back to codependency, if I don't cook, Danyeli will not eat the entire day. Will not have a meal.
I don't get hungry.
Listen, until she is literally dying from a headache or stomach aches, which suggests that, okay, maybe I should eat. Like, she will not eat all day if I don't cook.
Sometimes I'll sit around and wait and wonder, when is he going to get something to eat? I'll like sip a coffee and then he's just there. I'm like, oh, you starved yourself today? Cool.
Literally, we're exactly the same. Because I'm like, I'm fine. Like, don't worry about me. But Nick, I'm like, I'm good. Like, don't worry. Like, cook, do what you have to do.
Sister?
The whole time I'm hungry as hell. I can't even.
Lips all chapped and hiding.
That the other day.
Then she be getting hangry. So like, it's that added. Like, I have to deal with your hangriness too. Come on.
Yeah. Well, any closing thoughts? Danyeli, do you have anything coming up that you want to talk about, or?
No. I mean, yes and no. Obviously, I'm still performing. It's ongoing.
Okay.
And I think the big thing for me is I'm taking a social media break. I'm like,
Okay.
I extended it for a few weeks because I needed to post a few projects, but I want to leave, y'all. Like I'm thinking this deactivating like the socials, and just a complete stop. So I might go ghost.
Do you worry about that, like in terms of what you do for a living? You know,
sure. Like I had to speak about, I had to unpack the anxiety with my therapist. And something really affirming that I saw Elizabeth Acevedo say. Actually, I think she told Lorraine, and then Lorraine told me.
Y'all all got some popping ass friends, man.
Yes. So she said, some years are just for planting seeds. And then other years are for the harvest. So Elizabeth has this routine for herself that sometimes she's not publishing anything. She's just doing the work. She's just writing, and she has no accomplishment to show. And that was very affirming to me, because I'm like, I'm always scared of missing out. What if this huge producer comes across my Instagram and he decides that it's time for me to go to Hollywood, and my Instagram is deactivated, So I had to work through a lot of that and realizing I'm okay with missing a few things. If that means that I'm going to get to the work, especially when the work has been stalled for so long, I'm here performing the same 5 poems, same few poems that I wrote years ago, because I'm I haven't taken the time to go do the work again. So working through that anxiety and feeling like I need to be okay with whatever I miss, so that later on when it's time to show the work, I can receive all of that at a due time. Yeah. So I think that's where I'm at now, and obviously I'm down to do things and to do creative things, but for now, I think social media is just really, really draining me. And
it's finding that middle ground between FOMO, fear of missing out, and what's meant for me will never miss me.
Yep.
It's how could we agree with both of those, and then we're still scared?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so that's where I'm at, and just obviously every single day I have anxiety, and I have to work my thought process to be it's okay. A few months of you going away from the gram and from the socials and not having gigs is not going to destroy the rest of your life. And I think if anyone out there deals with anxiety, an exercise that my therapist taught me is follow the what ifs. What if a producer does come my way and can't find my Instagram? Am I going to fall apart? No. Yeah. And what would I do next?
And you won't even know.
I won't even know. So it's follow the thought process, and what you find at the end, I'm gonna be okay. Regardless of all the outcomes, I'm most likely going to be okay.
Everything works out in the end.
Yeah. And Nick, what you got going on?
Well, nothing in the art world, but my final thoughts. I think the thing I appreciate most about Danyeli and I's relationship is just our ability to communicate. One cap won't fit every relationship, so that you just have to be able to have those conversations that help you to figure out what works for you. And I think I appreciate about having that with Danyeli.
So sweet.
Yeah. And your partner can read your mind. That's a big one.
We talk about that all the time.
We had to really talk about that. Danyeli just thinks I live up here in her head. Yeah.
I'm currently going through a phase of I have to stop and think before I instantly say what comes to mind, it's
a Dominican thing I've come to find.
But then he can sense something's there, and then he's building this anxiety, waiting for me to finally be able to express what I'm thinking. So it's trying to figure out that, okay, I'm taking a second with this, but don't freak out.
Yeah, it's something. It's a double-edged sword being so in sync, because I could instantly pick up on, all right, she just filtered herself. I'll hear about this later.
Yeah. Because I don't want to be pushed into what's wrong. Like, I need my time. Because sometimes I might be seeing it wrong. I might be interpreting it incorrectly at first. And I'd rather sit with it for a minute before I like word vomit.
I feel like we had that too.
Yeah.
I'm more like you. Danyeli wants to deal with it like right now.
My anxiety is like, no,
like she has to know what's on your mind.
Yeah, siblings for real.
I remember when I was interning, and I would stay with her on the weekends. I would have work the next day. I'd have to like get up at 6 a.m. to get ready and drive 30 minutes to an hour to get to work. And if we had a little, like, there was an issue the night before, Danyeli would want to stay up until 2, 3 a.m. to talk it out, because we have to talk about it now. And I'm like, yo, when we cut it, it happened one time that summer, and I just couldn't function the next day at work because I did not get to sleep. I had to talk to her and like, babe, like, we can't do this again. Like, there needs to be balance, you know?
And that's good that you were able to express that, because, I've had a friend who her work life was so impacted by her relationship, but she wouldn't say anything about it. And I was like, us too, we need sleep. That's one thing. We'll fake it. We'll cuddle. We'll deal with this tomorrow.
I don't know who taught me in the toxic relationship that I've seen in my childhood, but it was ingrained in me so hard. Like, you can't go to bed mad, period. And you got to talk about it before you go to bed.
I feel like that was like marriage advice.
Marriage advice. But the thing is, it's switching that to don't lay in bed and be like, oh, don't touch me, just because you have something to resolve the next day. Like, know that you still have to address it. Even if we cuddle and do what we got to do tonight, we still got to address this tomorrow.
I still have to work on that, because I definitely put the pillow between us. Nick is sleeping at peace. And I'm on the whole night. I'm off.
It's so funny because like it's so laughable to me now when she's like going out with the antics. Like, she usually goes to bed first, and I come and see the bed already set up, quite ready, with the pillow in the middle, the division.
That's so funny.
I chuckle to myself and fall right asleep, like sleeping like a baby. So
meanwhile, the whole night I'm off, so he's just gonna leave the pillow. He's not gonna toss the pillow and cuddle me the whole night. I'm pissed.
He's already in his 10th dream.
Yes. But yeah, I don't know why I do that. It's so childish. I can say it's very childish, but when I'm like upset, I don't know why it makes me feel better to put the pillow in between. Even and I know that I'm ready to like give up the fight when I like. Nick never does it. It's always me. When I like take the pillow away and I just go look for like warmth and go cuddle him. That's like, okay, I'm done. I'm done being upset.
So I will literally mess with her and be like, babe, can you fix the pillow a bit better? It's like,
there's not enough separation between us.
Yeah.
It's so childish, and I feel like now that Nick has shown me that he does not care, like he's gonna sleep. Nick goes to sleep in like 2 seconds. Like,
he took the power away from it.
Nick can literally on the spot be like, I'm gonna take a nap, even if he's not sleeping. Close his eyes and he's gone. Not me. I'm a very like sleeper.
Yeah.
So, like, now seeing that he like does not care, he's just like, do you think like you're gonna spend the night mad? I'm going to sleep. Now I'm starting to reconsider. I'm like, damn, like, why am I
stressing myself out?
The thing is, if she's mad, she can't sleep. She'll like be restless all night. Like, will not get any rest. You know?
Yeah, it's just anxiety. It's just like, oh my God, like, are we gonna make it? Is this the end? You know?
Yeah.
My therapist calls it what is it? I forgot the term, but it's basically when you see conflict and you think like this is the end, like you think this is catastrophe, like that's it. You can't look at conflict and be like, oh, this is gonna be solved.
Like another hurdle.
It's like, that's it. We're not gonna make it. Like this shows this conflict about, we argued over like who's gonna do the dishes. That's it. We're not compatible. And that's all really anxiety and anxious attachment, I say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank y'all very much.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
So you guys, you've watched a few episodes and you know how we end this. I always look to my lovely wife and say, baby, do you still like me? And for the most part, she does.
Yeah.
But since you guys are our third guest.
Yeah.
Third guest.
And fourth.
So Danyeli and Nick.
Do you still like us?
Yes, of course.
All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, this was beautiful. Thank you guys.
Yes,
much.
and we'll keep in touch, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.